Welcome to the Journey 2020. I'm Charles Morris, where we come to you every Monday at 7 p.m. right here at www.thejourney2020.com. We're also on Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, YouTube, you name it, we're out there. We ask that you like us on Facebook, like us on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to us also on YouTube as well. That's the Journey 2020 at YouTube. And we appreciate you. We've been around since 2013. I used to host a show with a good friend of mine, Dr. John Robinson, Robinson and Associates. And associate of his also comes on the show. She is dedicated to the third Monday of every month. And she is our family therapist. She's a sex therapist as well, so we have a lot of fun with that. And on the fourth Monday, I actually heard from Haki Nkrumah saying that, hey, Charles, it's been a while since I've been on the show, because between Haki and Regina Johnson, we call her our life coach, they alternate on the fourth Monday. So we should be hearing from Haki Nkrumah real soon. He is from Young Fathers of Central Florida, which has one of the best programs. There are many programs out there, but Haki has a very unique program where he worked with young fathers as young as 12 years old on up to age about 27 to help them better understand and to step into the role of being a father. And they also help with the family, the mothers, try to put them in the proper position and to help break that generational curse that we know so well. Again, I'm Charles Morris, and this is the Journey 2020. Like I said, we come to you every Monday at 7 p.m. right here on YouTube. We're on Periscope. We're on Twitter, www.thejourney2020.com. We love your comments and questions or concern. You can always text us with any questions or anything like that during the show. We, appreciate that. And we also ask if you would like to email us. You can do that as well. You can hit us up on email. This is the email address. So there's no excuse for you not to be able to reach out to us. So we're love to take your questions and your comments. And so with that being said, I love when I invite one of my favorite persons here to come on the show, because that means that we get to talk about some fun, some serious stuff. And that is someone that a lot of you are very familiar with, and that is my pastor, and that is Pastor Omega Jenkins. Pastor, how you doing? Welcome to the Journey 2020.
I'm good, Brother Morris. Thank you for having me. Hello, Journey family.
Yeah, and then the thing is, I kind of feel bad because Pastor works some crazy hours sometimes. And I found out that he actually has a day off, and I kind of called him up not too long ago and said, "Hey, Pastor, can you? I'm reaching out to you for a show today." And I asked, "Did I wake you up?" He said, "No, I'm just waking up." So on his day off, he get to hang out with me for a minute. So thank you so much, Pastor, for taking the time to come on the Journey 2020. Question for you. For those out there who don't really know about Pastor Jenkins and True Vine Baptist Church, why don't you tell us a little about True Vine, and you can invite some of the people to come out.
True Vine Baptist Church, we like to say as a family, as a church family, as a God-fearing, Christ-centered family, with God's purpose in progress. We have services on Sundays, Sunday school at 9:30, worship service at 11 a.m. We have Tuesday evening Bible study, Bible teaching, beginning at 7:30. Throughout the week, year, months, we answer the call. Anytime there's a call to serve, anytime there's a call to fellowship, and as well as teach. So you're welcome to come with us, ride with us, walk with us, whatever the Lord has us to do. You're more than welcome.
All right. Well, again, would love to have you come out to True Vine Church on Sunday, as well as Bible study on Tuesday. Pastor, I'm going to catch you off guard, but do you have any information on the drop that takes place with Deacon Taylor on certain Mondays? Do you have any information on that?
Okay, first you speak of the Impact Ministry headed by Deacon Lewis and Irene Taylor. Beautiful people, great ministry. Not only they mentor our youth and they support the ministry as well as the community. Every Monday they have they call it a drop. They're partnered with Service Food Bank, whereas they food, produce, meat, each Monday to any family. Just bring your ID, sign up, and just grab a box of food. They also have them on Thursdays as well. But they're located right there on property with Tremendous Church, whereas the church is 1711 Rose Boulevard. Impact Ministry is 1705 Boulevard.
Right. It's
So
actually it's actually right there on
1705 Rose Boulevard.
yeah,
Yes.
it's actually right there on the church property at 1711 Rose Boulevard, 328-339. And
Mm-hmm.
for those who may need the impact services, but those who may want to volunteer, find out more information about how you may want to donate or volunteer, you can get in touch with Deacon Taylor. If you would like to, you can also contact me as well and be happy to get that information to you. Well, Pastor, as of yesterday, I think America is back to its normalcy, which means that the football season has started. And I've never asked you this question, but how did one become a Bucks fan? I asked you that question. How did you become a Tampa Bay Bucks fan? Because I always say at the beginning of the season that I probably should give you some aspirin. But how did you become a Bucks fan?
I was a big Doug Williams fan. I remember being a young boy, and I can only remember two black quarterbacks in the NFL as I was growing up because I wanted to play football. And I remember James Harris with the Rams, and then Doug Williams came along and kind of idolized him. Wanted to, he looked like me. He looked like my brother. He looked like my father. And so I just kind of, got hooked with the Bucks and rooted for them through the years of times I think they went maybe 1-12 or and it just continued. So it's been way back, before the pewter and the pewter and gray. It was orange sickle back in those days, man. I think it was a Doug Williams era that kind of got me hooked on when I began to root for them and root for their success.
Okay, and I don't know if you had a chance to see the segment, but I actually interviewed not Doug Williams, but James Harris for an hour and a half as he told his story
Uh,
of being at
uh,
Grambling and how he stepped into the role in the NFL. It was a very intriguing story, and based on what he said with Eddie Robinson, God was all in that. So I
uh,
was very intrigued with his story. Yeah, well, Pastor, one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you to come on the show, among other things, is that I wanted to ask you, and I think in order to be able to answer some of these questions that will be asked today, why do the Bible define us as sheep? I think we probably need to start there. Why, when you look and it says that we're labeled, Christ sees us as sheep who needs a shepherd.
because God knows that we are um, incapable of accomplishing many things without Him. He knows our limit. He knows our capabilities. He knows our inadequacies. Even if we deny them, or even if we go along and pretend that they don't exist, he already knows. So, in spite of what we tell each other, in spite of what we tell ourselves, He knows who we are. Um, and I believe I can't think of the scripture verbatim, but in Psalms, it talks about David said, you consider our frame, and you know that we are but dust. He remembers where we came from. I think the reason we act as though as mankind, like we forget where we came from. So I think I don't know if there's a definition, but we respond to our teaching, and if you're being taught by the world, then it's I got to do this, or I did this, or I did that. But if you're taught by the scriptures, and you understand it's by the grace of God. Paul said that I am by the grace of God. There's a lot of things he even elaborated. There's a lot of things he said he can brag about, being a Hebrew of the Hebrew and all those things. But he said he boasts not, but he boasts more about his inadequacies. He boasts more about the things he's incapable of doing, because it's those things that glorify and reflect the power of God. So I said we as a people tend to forget that
But
we're
but it
limited. We're
but is that why we do so much of what we do and don't do what we should do? Because we try to attach ourselves and boast ourselves and uplift ourselves, and we want so desperately for others to cherish us. Because in my reference that I wanted to make to Trump, because Trump is nothing new, but what bothers me about Trump is those who follow him. And Trump is, there's nothing new. Trump has never tried to hide who he is. I always say that. One of the things that I do admire about Trump is that he just show you, well, yeah, I think I'm God. I think I'm better than God himself. So he doesn't try to hide anything. And so, but people are drawn to him. And like this, when he was running for election, I haven't seen this pastor in a while. He was a tall, light-skinned brother who always was right there next to him. And
Daryl
and
Scott.
I don't know who he is, but I would love to just be a fly in the corner, just listen to some of his sermons, because to me, there's nowhere in the world that he can be preaching from the Bible. And still, those who claim that they are in the church, I'm still trying to figure out, how do you attach yourselves? And what do you say for those who see this man who has done all these horrific things by breaking up families, and he consistently show in his actions and in his words that he's not about the people. He's not about doing what's right. He's about just doing whatever he wants to do that benefits him. Is that part of the sheep mentality that so many would be drawn to somebody like him?
It's possible. Um, a person chooses who they want to look to as their point of refuge, or as commonly as a leader for them, a leader for the society, or someone who will effectively address whatever the ills are in society. And it goes back to choice. But I think those choices are motivated by what you know, either what you know of God and what you've actually tried to learn of God. If the world has been your teacher, then that's what you respond to. If the world has been your mentor, and that's what you respond to. And I think those who follow men, any man, and follow them in a way to say that this person is the end all, is the answer to all of our ills, is someone who's responding to the teachings of the world. A person who responds to the teachings of God and the scriptures will see no man in that light, and will pray for that man and encourage them, and most of all, be objective and not allow that person to continue on a path that's immoral, a path that is inaccurate, and continue to celebrate that person. So it depends on who has been that person's teacher, who has been their mentor, and that's who they generally respond to. And if it's material things, then you'll see that response as well.
Right.
So you're going to follow the rich man. If there's positions and power, then you're going to follow the person you consider to be powerful. It's not necessarily the mentality of a sheep. A sheep understands the nature of a shepherd, and if you don't have the nature of a shepherd, the sheep is not going to follow you. They're
Okay.
not going to fight you either, but they're not going to follow you because they are conditioned to follow shepherds. And if there's nothing in you about you that speaks of the shepherd, is more than just going in front. If they don't see that, then they're not going to follow you. Jesus said, "My sheep know my voice," and they understand that. So it depends on what voice you've been listening to.
Right. And the reason why I been wanting to do this show was because I wanted to just speak from a spiritual standpoint of a lot of the things that you just touched on, because you just said something that was extremely important about us and who we are and how we see ourselves and how we want to attach ourselves to these things. And it's just interesting how spirit to spirit that we validate ourselves and our existence and the importance of it. Because I like the certain things I can't relate to. I can't. I mean, because I understand marketing, I understand advertising because I come from that field, but it doesn't take much, especially after you become an adult and you've lived a few years and you start to understand just man and human nature. But then when you become part of the society that you allow a pair of sneakers to hold a value where you go and you pay $200, $300, $400 for a pair of sneakers, or even jewelry, for an example, Pastor. I don't understand the jewelry thing because once you put it on, if I put something on my finger, if I wrap something around my neck or put something around my neck, it's just sitting there. It doesn't say anything in reference to do anything for me. So, and I'm just speaking for myself. So if you gave me something that was solid gold that you put around my neck, I just look at something that I just put around my neck, or for an example, in our culture, they'll sit there and they say, well, such and such gave this a woman a rock, but it doesn't says anything about the person or the marriage or the relationship at all. So a lot of times you got your rock, but you don't know where your man is, but you can hold on to the rock. So by us and who we are, for an example, when for an example, a movie will come out, and I'm just talking about how we are. A movie will come out. It's supposed to be a blockbuster movie, and they'll open it a day early, and the line is around the corner. But once the movie is out, it's out forever. It's not like it's just out that one day. It's out forever. Or when a iPhone come out, the iPhone is out forever. Then you can go and buy it at any point in time. But all of that says us. What does that say about us in reference to what you were just talking about, and how we have problems putting that all together? Because whether or not we put a value on a pair of sneakers, whether or not we put value on colors, because now it's something as serious as you start. People dying is because of sneakers. People dying because of colors. The line is long during Black Friday, and people fighting over stuff that's in the store, and it's all the same thing. And it's just amazing to me sometimes because I'm sitting there going, none of that brings value to myself and to my life. So it doesn't make me a better person. It doesn't serve my purpose. So sometimes I am confused, Pastor, because I'm sitting there looking, and it's just so dominant in so many of us.
I've been told, and I've heard the term, and I believe it to be true. The worst time to go grocery shopping is when you're hungry. Because you don't make good decisions, and for a world that rejects Christ, for a world that rejects the Word of God, that person finds themselves empty and hungry a lot. And so when they're faced with different things, choices, decisions, and you're hungry, it's kind of the Jacob and Esau effect. Esau sold his whole birthright because he was hungry. And we're seeing a world that is hungry, but however, refuses the meal that's set before them from the men and women of God today. They refuse the meal, so they hungry. So their choices are poor, to say the least. To fight over a chicken sandwich, to see this in Black folk, if there's anything ought not to get us in an uproar, it's chicken. We ought to know chicken better than anybody, and you shouldn't excite me. I mean, a Bugatti, a Maserati, a Lamborghini, things that I don't see every day. Okay, but you shouldn't excite me with some chicken. It just should not be exciting.
Okay.
Most of us are raised up.
Okay, we gonna talk about the chicken, but I want to first bring this guy up right here, Pastor. When you talk about something that happens, like when they go out, and if you're looking at this guy, there was this thing that they started on Twitter, right?
Right.
So this thing was where they started on Twitter, the saying that you should go lick the ice cream, put the top back on, and put it back in the freezer. So this is what this guy's doing. So he's licking the ice cream, he putting the top back, and then he goes and he get arrested. That's his mugshot. Okay. So Now this is a praise that started on like Twitter, and here's like the same person. Well, not the same person, but it's the same thing, where she's licking the
Right.
ice cream, and then this craze. Now,
Mm-hmm.
again, it started talking about the chicken, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show. But how we can easily be so influenced, by something as simple as they're spending all this money to target those that they considered black Twitter. So now here we are, we have Popeye's chicken sandwich, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that
Mm-hmm.
being said, I'm gonna show this little quick video, and then well, wait a minute. Here's one picture right here. This is the fight. That's one
Mm-hmm.
fight, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here is another fight. You really
Mm-hmm.
can't see it, but that guy's motion. He's throwing something at the person behind the counter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of a chicken sandwich.
Right.
Now, I don't know what that's about, but even here, even here. Now, Pastor,
Mm-hmm.
here it is. He's at Popeyes.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
at Popeyes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So, with that being said, this is over a chicken sandwich. A
Mm-hmm.
chicken sandwich.
Right.
So as I was saying earlier, I just think that there's something that's kind of wrong with us, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is, and this is the last one. This is the last one. This is
Mm-hmm.
this is this is over a chicken sandwich.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, Pastor. I was thinking. I was like, well, wait a minute, because I'm seeing so much passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm thinking like, well, maybe Christ got it wrong. Okay? I'm thinking maybe he got it wrong. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, say, instead of him saying, I'm going to offer you salvation, he just said, I'm going to offer you a chicken sandwich. And then people would probably come to him, versus the
Mm-hmm.
salvation, because we wish that people could be as excited over their salvation as they are over a chicken sandwich. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How do you
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute? Well, first of all, for people that don't know, you work in the prison system, you work in the jail system,
Yes.
right? So you've seen some over the years, and I'm gonna tell you, you probably should write a book on your experiences in the jail system, because
I just might.
even during your sermons, sometimes you do tell some interesting
Mm-hmm.
stories. But my question, you've seen and heard and talked to a lot of people that has come through that system. Does any of
Mm-hmm.
this like really shock you or surprise you in any way?
It does not. And that's why I get the analogy of hungry people, because I see it in the jail system, whereas folk are in a state of hunger and they do things that are just, I don't know if you call them desperate, because they don't necessarily have to do them, but they make decisions that are detrimental. Hungry, whether it be for attention, hungry for love, hungry, for family unity, whatever it is, it's a state of hunger, and there's a void in us that only God can fill. And so we do what we can to try to fill that void. When the preacher and the word keep saying, that only God can fill that word, fill that void. But when you keep neglecting that message and you're saying no, money can fill it, no power can fill it, no material things can fill it, man can fill it, positions can fill it, chicken sandwiches can fill it. Remember the Cabbage Patch dolls could fill it. Jordan sneakers. All these things that we have just destroyed each other, who compromise our own integrity, put ourselves in danger, put ourselves in all kind of horrific circumstances over these things, it takes me back to just someone trying to fulfill something that needs to be fulfilled, and they refuse to believe that it's as simple as the love of God. It's something as simple as a relationship with Christ. Something as simple as that can fulfill that void that you feel that that you tried so ignorantly to fill with other things.
Pastor,
Jesus made a statement.
it's sometimes I have conversation, and sometimes I'm looked at in a certain way, and I'm just
Hmm.
having an ordinary conversation about ordinary everyday action in people's lives. And I don't
Hmm.
think that I'm really being heard or understood by something as simple as I say, and I've even said it to you on occasions where I said, Pastor, this is the same reason why Satan got kicked out of heaven, because of the same characteristics of this type of behavior, of the selfishness and the pride and the ego. And to me, because that spirit is so strong in us in so many different ways, and it's constant and it's always tapping on us, and our inability to recognize it sometimes, most of the time, just blows me away. And with everything you
Hmm.
just said, because when we search for all these things, when we search and I'm looking to you for gratification, I'm looking to satisfy you, whether or not it's the cheer of the crowd, or whether or
Right.
not I'm trying to egg people on because now I have the center of attention. Isn't that part of the grandstanding of that nature of the arrogance and wanting to be, supreme? Is that not part of it? Not in our inability to humble ourselves? Isn't that why?
Definitely, definitely a big part of it. But that's why Jesus kept saying, that the Bible continues, it's over, humble yourself. First Peter, humble yourself under the mighty hand of God. The Bible said Christ was clothed in humility. He was our example. So definitely it's a big part of it. That we tend to think that we're able and we're capable and there's a possibility, we can do for ourselves. In actuality, we cannot. But the most dangerous thing about this characteristic, you mentioned Satan and Lucifer, being kicked out of heaven. But the most dangerous thing about this characteristic and this conduct and this behavior is that it always leads to bondage of some sort. Israel was led into bondage because they turned away from God. And even then, even being freed, from the bondage of Egypt, they got in the desert and began with the same type of behavior. So this behavior always leads to bondage. Fighting in a Popeye's chicken will get you in jail. You know, rejecting the wisdom of God and going about doing it your own way generally gets us in financial bondages or a bondage of emotional bondages with people who don't generally care about us and people who mistreat us. But now we emotionally tied to that person and we can't get free. So this type of behavior always leads to some type of bondage. That's the message I think should be preached, and hopefully it resonates. That you let people know you're leading yourself to a degree of bondage, and who knows how long you'll be in that bondage before you're able to be freed and delivered.
Pastor, one of the things that I try to emphasize too, and I hope that I can word this correctly, and I hope that I can speak into what I'm trying to say, is that
Mhm.
a lot of times our actions and the things that we do and our inability to have a breakthrough, that things that we do also affect other people, our families, and so on and so forth. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe next year, but it kind of goes into that generational curse in which the things that we indulge in comes back sometimes later. And people, and to me, the way that I can phrase it is that a lot of times I could do something and can be long gone, and things are happening because of something that I did as it evolves itself and comes out sometimes later, and people are going like, why are these things happening? And I think that because we're selfish, we don't understand the true effects sometimes of our own actions, not only how it can affect us, but it can also affect others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally true. Being inconsiderate, you see all of that, in this type of behavior that we've been speaking of: selfishness, self-centeredness, oblivious to not only people that we don't know, but think of the people that we do know. Think of the children of these people who are jumping through the windows at Popeyes and fighting over chicken sandwiches. Think of the children. Think of the people who they influence, or the lives whom they impact. Will that person think it's okay to act like this? Will that person think it's all right to be disrespectful, to go into an establishment and demand something, and if you don't get it, then it's okay to become violent? You got to think this is it's just a pebble, but it creates that ripple effect.
Well, I was wanted to ask you. I I love listening to Charles Stanley
Hmm.
every Sunday, and I listen to him sometimes late night during the week because they replay it, during the week. So, and I told you years ago that you remind me of Charles Stanley, and Charles Stanley remind me
Have
of you.
mercy.
And one of his sermons that he preached upon this Sunday, like for an example, in all that you do and all that you are in your life, and do we really learn to ask God for directions, and do we put everything into Him and all of who we are? So let's not go anywhere, do anything without acknowledging that He should lead us no matter what. And so, like for an example, and I'm just guessing, like I give you an example of what I mean. That, and I'm just using this as an example, people. This is just an example, and I
Hmm.
could be wrong, but I wonder for somebody like John Kennedy, that coming from the Kennedy family, that when he decided to run for the president of the United States, did he pray on it? Did he fast on it? Did he ask God, is this the direction that hey, I am thinking about running for the president of the United States. Let me pray upon this. Let me fast upon this. Let me see what God says. Let me be directed by him, and he would, let me know if this is something that I should do. And I'm just using this as an example of our everyday lives of Charles Stanley say, should I, I want to go to this college. Let me pray upon going to this college. I want this job. Let me go and pray upon, should I be trying to apply for this job? And I just think it's interesting how people think that business and your faith and money don't go together, when actuality it should be a priority, especially when you're talking about business and your money and your future. And I think we
Hmm.
just don't want to correlate the two when they all go hand in hand, because you can't have one without the other, especially once you understand who wakes you up and who opened the doors and who closes them.
Hmm. Definitely. In all things, the Bible said, "Give thanks." And sometimes we only relegate those all things to just church stuff. But I've learned in my growth that God is present. And He's available in my business decisions, in my social decisions, in my economic decisions, as well as my spiritual decisions. I've had to learn that in my growth. I mean, it wasn't something I've always had. I've always acknowledged and realized. But thankfully, as I've gotten older, I've realized that He's available for all decisions that I may be confronted with. And again, it's a message I think that can be pushed a little more, that can be highlighted a little more, because a lot of times I think church people think God is just in the church, and outside the church, it's me and. whatever, my education or me and my money or whatever. But he is, and the Bible has indicated that, you know, he is everything, and he wants to be in every part of our lives. It's just a matter of us getting to a point of spiritual maturity to realize that, you know.
Yeah, I had a friend who you know of her, but she was part of these people that was dealing with some multi-million-dollar contracts. And she
Hmm.
talked about how these people would come together and they were, we're talking about millions of dollars and all these egos in the room and how difficult
Hmm.
it could be. And they kind of appointed her to be the president because they kind of looked at her as somebody who wasn't as arrogant, somebody who would be fair, and somebody who they could talk to versus, looking at each other because they were kind of competitive against each other. But the airport brought them together as a group of black people who were able that they was trying to get them to work together for all of this money. So she was just talking
Hmm.
about how difficult it would be. And I just said, have you ever thought about at the beginning? And I said, it doesn't really matter. I just said, regardless of who they are and what they are, you start off that meeting with a prayer. You just started
Hmm.
off with a prayer, and that'll kind of take that
Hmm.
thing down just a little bit. It may rise up during the meeting, but I say you
Right.
started with the prayer and you ended with a prayer. And she
Hmm.
kind of did like this for a minute. She go, and whether or not she was going to have the courage, to do that. But she said, I'm
Hmm.
going to try it. And then she came back to me and she just said, Charles, it made all the difference in the world because now where
Hmm.
the meeting where the tension just seems to be so high. But she said, as
Hmm.
we went along and things started to fall into places before every meeting, I would say a prayer. And then she said, all of a sudden, the meeting, that tension wasn't in the room anymore. She said, I'm still dealing with a bunch of egotistical men who have a lot of money, who make a lot of money, but still that tension went down and things were just a little bit better. And I go like, well, yeah, that's how you can start out and that's how you can end. And that's what he does. But for a lot of people who don't understand how God operates and the spirit that's in us anyway, because we are put here in to serve him despite the fact that we may not want to, but it's in us. We just have to find a way for a lot of us to tap into that when it comes to certain people who still has the spirit of the Holy Ghost or the spirit of God in them and willing at some point to say, you know what, I want to do better and I want to be better. But Pastor, as you look out, and I know I brought it to your attention of this Popeye's chicken thing, what was the first thing that came, to your mind?
Embarrassed, just embarrassed because the first thing I saw was it wasn't the fighting. I saw the long lines, and I heard of the long, even locally. Some of my friends and relatives were saying how the long lines around, Popeyes and different places. Then you begin to see it on social media. And the first thing I thought about was how we ethnically have been known to be um, the least amount who turn out during, voting and during elections. That our ethnic group are generally the least ones who turn out to vote. And so to look at these lines, around buildings, it's just embarrassing, and then for chicken, that that's another thing. Something as common to the black family as chicken. You know what I'm saying? Nothing should excite us about. We've had it every way you can have it. You know what I'm saying? We've had every part of the chicken. If you know what part of the country you come from, you've had every part of the chicken. So what is so exciting about this man's chicken? That's what really got me. I mean, of all the things that I understand the Jordan shoes, and a different style that come out on the telephones and the cell phones, but we're talking chicken, and it's so common to us. I'm thinking, no, not chicken. Not of all that we ought to know chicken. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't
If
have
you know
choose that.
chicken the way I know chicken, you shouldn't be
And
acting
I know
like
you
this,
do.
right?
I know you exactly. And we all know. We all know. I don't know, man.
Now that is funny.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what I'm going to do, Pastor. What I'm going to do if I find out if and when Popeyes have that chicken sandwich, I'm going to bring you some. I'm going to get you one of those chicken sandwiches.
I don't know, brother. Because my dad used to say, anything that make me act like that, I don't want it. So I'm starting to question Popeye. What do you got in this? What substance you put in this chicken that make my people act like this? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and then the funny thing is, like, I really don't eat fast food anymore. It's been years since I've been, but back in the day now, I don't know, but my favorite, and I'll say this, my favorite chicken sandwich has always been Wendy's spicy chicken. I used to go there. I love their spicy chicken sandwich. But that's the sandwich that I used to eat. The sandwich that I used to eat is the spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's.
Right.
So, but I probably haven't had that in about maybe 9 years. But
Mm-hmm.
what I am so tempted, Pastor, to do a little skit. I'm working on it, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I might do a little skit on it. So.
Mm-hmm. It speaks to the carnal mind and the spiritual mind. The carnal mind love the things of the world. The carnal mind is influenced, impacted by the things of the world, driven, almost motivated. Whereas the spiritual mind are motivated by the things of God. And so I think this reveals which is which. It gives a clear picture. It should help every Bible teacher. You know, this you can show a picture of what you just showed is the carnal mind, and it'll help you to teach about the spiritual mind.
Yeah, but see, that's what really is hard to understand sometimes, Pastor. Because I get it when you're young. I get it when you're a teenager and when you're in your early 20s. A lot of stuff I do understand.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get
Mm-hmm.
older and you have, lived some years and you started to better understand
Mm-hmm.
the ways of mankind, I'm still kind of lost for older people who people of color who follow Trump. That is just hard for
Yeah.
me to understand whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when he is just so adamant about who he is and how he feels about you, and you still
Mm-hmm.
stand behind this man. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to how blind we are to something as
Brother
simple
Morris,
that is.
we're not the first society to do something like that. Remember, the people in Jesus' time, when they were given a choice of which one to spare, which life to spare, they called for Barabbas. When they were given a choice, who do you want me to set free? Pilate asked the question. They knew who Barabbas was. Barabbas had actually probably victimized some of them. There were possibly victims of Barabbas in the crowd, screaming Barabbas. So it's nothing new for this world, because it's blinded by Satan, for this world to grab at that which it works in opposite of them. You know what I'm saying?
You know, and actually, you said something
And in
on your
2016, well, I won't say the people. In 2016, because the people, majority of those people went for Clinton, but the Electoral College screamed Barabbas in November 2016.
right. But see, you said something on Facebook the other day that I don't think that a lot of people based on what you just said about that particular spirit, and when that particular spirit is so dominant in your life. And what I mean by that is when you talked about somebody who had the leader of all leader, and look at still what Judith did.
Mm-hmm.
So if he had Christ
Mm-hmm. Right.
right there and
Mm-hmm.
he still
Right.
responded the way that he did,
Right.
what it's
Yeah.
almost like, well, what chance do we really have when that spirit is so strong if you can't humble yourself? And
Right.
I mean, when you think about that, and I'm reflecting on the spirit of the dominance and how it can affect you when you see yourself the way that you do and your inability to see
Mm-hmm.
Christ. And he's right there. And he has performed the
Mm-hmm.
miracles. He's done all these things. He's in your presence. And I tell people about our challenges that we face, because even for somebody like Moses, and the reason why he didn't see the promised land, didn't it go back to his arrogance?
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
For somebody like Moses, when
Mm-hmm.
you're not conscious of that arrogance and who we
Mm-hmm.
are.
Mm-hmm.
So when you don't want to accept who Christ is, and that other spirit that seems to be so
Mm-hmm.
dominant in us, that I rather, our spirit says, here I am. I rather please the football field that has 100,000 people than the holy God himself. I'd rather go and have them scream and shout versus God being proud of me. That is the
Mm-hmm.
challenge that we face every day of our lives. And so, and I guess that's the challenge as a man of God, that when we come to you, how do we get past ourselves and to associate and better learn the Holy Spirit of Christ than the spirit of arrogance and ego and selfishness and pride and greed and all of that that makes us act, I want my chicken sandwich, man.
As I was saying, as I forwarded in that, and I don't, of course, as a disclaimer, someone sent that to me, and I forwarded, in that message, it was saying, it's the individual. You can, like you said, Trump is who he is. He's always been this way. This man ain't just gotten that way. It's just a matter of the person, chooses to choose him, to follow him. I think that's the scariest thing about it is the person makes a choice, a conscious choice to follow him.
Right,
And Judah, everything he saw in Christ, he saw no ill, he saw no harm, he saw no bad, but he still chose deceptive, to be duplicitous. He chose to be that way. And but he was only one one of 12 in a country of 300 million people. That's 25 million people. Still a lot of people. I thought I was going somewhere, but that don't sound good. That don't sound good.
but it's true. And what I mean by that is, that's why when Trump stands there and you look behind him and you see all these people, or when they go to and they go vote, and I don't know if you saw the special on CNN. CNN did a special that ran, and it was talking about the hate in America. It ran like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and there was these separatist group, these white groups that's talking about that they're the pure race and they're God, that mess, and you sit there, and that part I get. Okay, I get that part because I understand that spirit. But what is sometimes mind-boggling to me is that for the ones that go to church, I'm talking about the ones that claim that they go to church, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, what Bible are they reading from? Because they're not reading from the Bible that we know of as the Bible, because they can't be reading from that Bible. So I'm trying to figure out, like, well, what Bible are they reading from? Or just like the Bible that Pence is reading from, because I don't know what Bible or what church he goes to. because he can't be that of which is that of the Holy Bible, because I don't know what they're teaching or what he has learned, because it's not something spiritual or biblical. It just can't be. So it's just, that's what confuses me sometimes. Like, what where you go to church? You know, just like that brother standing there with Trump. It's just like, yeah, really?
Right.
But actually, you know what? Let me ask you a question, Pastor. In your circle
Mm-hmm.
of people, and I'm not asking for no names, but do you know any pastors that's in your circle that will be standing there with Trump?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't know of one.
Huh?
Not only pastors, but ministers, youth ministers, Sunday school teachers. You know, in my circle, I don't know of one. No.
Okay.
Um, but then I'm not, we're on the chitlin circuit. You know, I'm not friends with these mega pastors and $1 million salary pastors. You know, I'm on that. So again, I think a lot of it has to do with personal agendas. The brother you're speaking of, Darrell Scott, I was just watching some on him regarding he's supposed to be like a liaison between the Trump administration and the urban communities, particularly the focus. I think during the time Mr. Trump's campaign was he was supposed to address the violence in Chicago and the gang violence. And there was a couple of meetings that he supposedly had set up where he used to sit down with the gang members, and he expressed to candidate Trump that these guys wanted to sit and talk with him. But a lot of inconsistencies in that. But I remember that agenda as the campaign was going on, that he was that liaison, that conduit between Trump and the gang leaders and members of Chicago to try to decrease, minimize, and eventually do away with the violence in Chicago. Of course, nothing materialized, but yeah. So I remember
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
him.
yeah. Okay. I still would like to go to this church and just sit in the back and just hear him preach. I just wonder what he preach on.
It concerns me at any time that a man of God, a leader in the body of Christ, would get up and endorse a man to the degree that these people are endorsing these politicians. Don't get me wrong. I pray for civil leadership, and I pray for good civil and community leadership. I've learned to appreciate good leadership in our communities, in our governments. But these spiritual leaders sometimes are speaking of these community leaders and government leaders as if they have these godly attributes. They're just men. They're just women. They're fallible. We support them. Yeah, pray for them, pray with them, advise them, sure. But when you start exalting these people as if they have attributes that no other person has, that concerns me. Coming from spiritual leaders, that's what concerns. Coming from spiritual leaders, you exalt the man. Now, I enjoy President Obama. In the outset, I'll be honest, I wasn't totally on. I thought I listened to him as a senator coming out of Chicago, and I thought it was impressive. But going forward, look at his agenda. I wasn't always on board. I ain't gonna lie. But the more I listened, the more I paid attention. I said, man, this guy is sharp, and I just gave him that. He was intelligent. He knew people. He understood people. He was articulate, and he did a lot of great things in his tenure. But I would never exalt him to be someone equal with God or someone who has these, intangible abilities to do this. I never do that. As much as I admire him now, because my interest and appreciation has grown into just pure admiration. I admire the guy, but
Right.
never would I put him in that realm. But these people now, they're talking to these politicians like they were shot out of heaven,
Right.
And
Yeah. Well, you you have no idea how many times a day sometimes I want to pick up the phone and call. But I guess I should be used to it by now. I mean, as old as I am. But I don't know. It's I guess there's there's nothing new under the sun, and
uh-huh.
And the people, we are who we are, and it's kind of like when I had the Skip, who is the biblical scholar on on the Hebrew Bible, and he used to come over and
Right.
speak.
I
And I
remember.
had him on the show, and he kind of gave an analogy of the the water running down the river, the flowing water. And as the water flows down the river, it's a constant stream of water. And then he said, and once the water is downstream, and if you look back upon the way for the running water, for the people that the running water that is running to, the people that are running to, they always want to look back and think that what has gone on behind them is something new. So as he was basically saying that for some odd reason, the generation or the the water that is running to, those are the ones who think that that's new water. It's
Right.
still the same water in the sense of the flow
Right.
and what it has gone through. And they always think that they have an answer for those that in which the water has passed. So it's still nothing new. And you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
learn from those in
Mm-hmm.
which has gone through it to say
Mm-hmm.
that I can learn. You always want to bypass them and think you're dealing with
Mm-hmm.
something new and you have an answer. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best way that I can put
Mm-hmm.
it. Because for the people
Mm-hmm.
who are dealing with today's life, all of this has transpired before, and we want to act like
Mm-hmm.
this has never happened before, or we running into something new before, when all of this was
Mm-hmm.
already have done and has been explained in the Bible. Everything
Mm-hmm.
that we experience has already been explained and talked about in the Bible. Everything. So
Wow.
there's nothing that we run into today that has not already has
Mm-hmm.
transpired that you can't go pick up the Bible and go, oh, well, that happened back then. Whether or not it's
Mm-hmm.
something good, or whether or not it's a disaster, or whether or not the hurricane is coming, or whether or not there's fire, or whether or not there's an earthquake, all of that has transpired before, you know, which leads me up to we're saying prayers for those who've been dealing with the hurricane, the Bahamas, and also for those who would like to help. Please make sure that you don't run into any scams. You can Google those who would like to give money or donate. I do. Let me see if I can find this. I may or I may not have it, but I want to say that you can Google help if you would like to uh, donate, or if you want to give money or material things to those of people who need so much in the Bahamas as well. Pastor, do you have any relatives, anybody there in the Bahamas?
No, I don't know anyone personally there. However, I do know people who have people personally there, and just being prayerful and on staying on ready to do whatever I can. You know, you know.
Oh, all right. Well, blessings. Again, I put up this little screenshot real quick. You can go to hopefleet.org if you would
Okay.
like to donate. That's one of the places there. And like I said, you just make sure that you do your research, because there's a lot of scammers, people that's
Yes.
trying to take
Yes.
your money,
Yes.
and they'll
Mm-hmm.
they'll take advantage of the situation. So I do
Yeah.
encourage you to
Yeah.
be diligent and do your homework.
Right.
Pastor, I
Yeah,
always
we got
want
our
to.
lesson from the when Haiti. Remember the earthquake from Haiti? What happened in Haiti?
Right.
We got our lesson from that. We saw a lot of the scam. It's sad, but yeah, you have to look for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. People always want to take advantage of the opportunity. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you so very much. You're always a blessing. I always love
Mm-hmm.
having you come on the show. And again, for those out there, and invite them to True Vine. Tell them where and when.
1711 Rose Boulevard, Orlando, Florida, 32839. True Vine Baptist Church, where God's purpose is always in progress. Sunday school, 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning, 11 o'clock worship service, where we just know to sing, pray, preach, and give. You're welcome to come on out and join and fellowship with us. God bless you.
Right. And know what, Pastor? Next time I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to have you on the show, I'm going to, can we do a show called Why, and I'm just asking, why my church will never be popular?
Mm, sure. I'm prepared for that.
Yeah, no, but I'm serious. I think that's very
Yes,
important of
it is.
why the parking lot, and I don't mean the way that it sounds,
Right.
but the parking lot is full with some churches, and some churches they're not so full, and there's a reason why. Now
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason, but
Uh-huh.
also,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but also, I always say this, Pastor, and whether you agree or disagree, but if you go to a church and during the sermon, if you're not feeling a little uncomfortable, if you're not
Mm-hmm.
screaming a little bit, like it kind
Yeah.
of stuck me with a little pin
Mm-hmm.
right there. You
Yeah.
know, if you don't feel like is he talking to me? You know, if you don't have
Right.
that kind of
Right.
feeling, then you're in the wrong
Mm-hmm.
church
Yeah.
because you should be at certain sermons. You should feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Certain sermons should make you think to look inward. Certain
Mm-hmm.
sermons should make you want to be a better person. Certain
Mm-hmm.
sermons should make you go, man, I need to do better.
Mm-hmm.
That's what sermon's supposed to, that's the purpose of going. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
always got you like this right here,
Mm-hmm.
and you the lights and other, then something's wrong. And then you got a church
Mm-hmm.
that don't speak on hell and
Mm-hmm.
that it exists, something wrong. But that's just me talking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's just
Mm-hmm.
me.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. I give you an amen to that.
Okay. All right, Pastor. Thank you so very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Morris. God bless you. Keep on keeping on, Doc.
That's Pastor Omega Jenkins from True Vine Baptist Church. We do invite you to join us. Come and visit. We're not asking you but to just visit. Show your face, and you might get some hugs. Give some hugs and receive some hugs. I want to thank him so much for taking the time off on his day off, and I know that he's a very busy person who gets very little sleep. He does a lot of overnight work. And again, we're at Bible study at 8 o'clock on Tuesdays at 1711 Rose Boulevard, and Sunday service again. Come by and visit. This is the Journey 2020, where we come to you every Monday at 7 p.m. right here at www.journey2020.com. We're on Twitter, Periscope, Facebook, and we ask that you hit the like button, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the like button on Facebook as well as YouTube. Would appreciate that. And remember the third Monday of every month that we have Kathy Meeks. She's from Robinson and Associates. She's our sex therapist. We have a lot of fun with that. The fourth Monday, we have Akina Krumah from Young Fathers of Central Florida, or our life coach, Regina Johnson. She talks to us about some of our choices when it comes to our finances to help us have some money in our pockets. Talk about romance and no romance. No finance, no romance. We cover that as well. And then I ask her women questions that I want to know when it comes to women. I'm not a woman. I don't claim to be one, not trying to be one. I don't think like one, don't walk like one, don't look like one. So I just have to ask the questions to a woman who can answer women questions, because I certainly don't have an answer. I'd be the first one to admit that. But this is the Journey 2020, where we have some fun, some serious stuff, not so serious. And if you have any questions or comments, you can always hit us up. Let me know. You might want to come on the show. You might be able to answer some of those questions when it comes to the ladies. I don't know. I'm just asking. But anyway, be prayerful. Remember those that are victim of the hurricane, and if you can, be mindful of the scams out there. And if you're able to help some, please do. Appreciate it. Blessings to all of you. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Charles Morse. This is The Journey 2020.